Good evening, and thank you for attending and participating in this very special and important swearing in of the newly elected Friendship Heights Village Council. That was a mouthful, but we're here. I first would like to tell everybody who's at the table, don't forget to turn your mic off. We don't want any open mics that don't need to be open at that time. So the red light is on, that means you're on. A few things I'd like to start off with, and it's just a brief little catch up on things. As we begin tonight's most anticipated part of the meeting, because I think everybody's here because of that, I want to take a brief moment to explain the next step. As said to me on several occasions, and possibly to some of my colleagues here on the council, several first-time voters we had, because this was a big turnout for Friendship. And some of the new residents, some of our longtime residents who voted before, and several who have never voted but voted this time, and we thank you. What happens now? That was a question I heard quite often. And because, thank you very much, I appreciate your support, I had the most votes in the election, and several people thought that that meant I would automatically be mayor or chairperson. According to the bylaws, that is not so. So what happens is the council, once we have filled all 7 positions, we will vote openly, and you'll hear us, for who wants to be nominated for the different positions. And that is how the council's positions are made up. So I wanted to make sure everybody knew that, and also hopefully the people on live stream that are joining in with us, that they can hear me loud and clear and understand how this process works. One thing that we've talked about, and when I say we, several of us together, several of us in a group, we've talked about why this election was so historical. It was different because you, the residents, spoke loud and very clear. And you were very clear that you wanted to see a fresh new look, and you wanted fresh new ideas. And it was very clear because in the end, you have 4 new people, myself included. And I don't speak for each one of us, but I probably can guess that we're all saying thank you to trusting and believing in us that we will do our best job with the rest of our colleagues who have been on the council previously. So this is how it goes in the process. There is no rule on how I ask for a motion for the 7 titles or positions, so I can just go randomly. And if no one accepts a nomination for a position, the position will remain vacant. A council person is not required to take a title or a position. They will stay on the board, and they will still be your council representative, and they will still do council work. But you do not have to legally take a title. So, without further ado, any questions from the council? We ready? All right, let the fun begin. I would like to ask for a nomination for the historian. Would someone like to make a nomination for the historian? Okay, and I think in Robert's rules, you kind of say it 2 or 3 times. Are there any nominations for the historian? So if there are no nominations for the historian, that position will stay vacant and we will move forward. The next position, we have a nomination for parliamentarian.
I second.
Paula Durbin. Be sure you turn on your mic when you talk. Thank you. So, Paula, are there any other comments, nominations? Okay, so Paula is our parliamentarian. Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor, please say, we'll go down.
Aye.
Aye. 7 ayes, no nays, and no abstentions. So Paula, you have the petition. Thank you. The next one we have is the nomination for treasurer.
I'd like to nominate Roy Schaefer, a CPA, for treasurer.
Okay, do we have any other nominations before we move on? Okay, Roy. All right, we have vote. That's what I'm calling for next. Oh, and you second the motion. Thank you. All right, call for the vote, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Roy has 7, and thank you, Roy, for being treasurer. The next I need a motion for is secretary.
I nominate Martha Sultan.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Go for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. That's unanimous. Martha, you are our secretary. Thank you. Now we will have a nomination for the vice chairperson.
I would like to nominate Cheryl Tyler.
I'm sorry, don't.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And if you did not hear, I said I stepped down from that nomination. Is there another nomination for vice chair? Okay. When that position will stay vacant. We'll move on to the next position, and that position is a nomination for mayor.
I would like to nominate Melanie White for mayor.
I second.
Can we call for the count? For the vote, please?
Aye.
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 Aye. You have 7? All right. Thank you, Melanie. You'll be the mayor. And then we have up for the last position is chairperson. I have a nomination for chair.
With my hope that this council will work for the good of our village, I nominate Bobby Pastrunk for chairman.
All right, we go for the count. All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have 7. Thank you. All right. So thank you for your support and faith in the new council. And I will now turn the gavel over to our new chairperson, Bobby.
Thank you, Cheryl. I'd like to do 3 things. First, let me give thanks and a welcome to you all to the council meeting tonight. Second, proceed with the rest of the meeting now that the other officers have been elected. And third, tell you a little bit about the agenda tonight. First, thank you to the council for entrusting me with the position of chairman. I'll do my best. Thank you, residents of the village, live or Zoom, and others for helping to celebrate our investiture in office and for your presence at the first meeting of this new council. As we on the council gain experience with our work together and with you and other residents of the village and others outside the village, I'm confident that our processes will improve. Please forgive any unforced errors tonight as we all become acclimated to one another and our new roles. Thank you for your attendance tonight. It manifests your interest in village matters, which is important to us. And I think I speak for all of us when I say that the campaign is over. And now our job is to all work together for all of you. We will do our best to do this in a respectful and informed manner, to continue to address the quality of life in the village and hopefully find ways to improve it. And we hope to maintain your interest. And I hope that as a council, we can. In the run-up to tonight, some of us became aware of the extraordinary collection of people and experience residing in and around the village. We hope to involve you in ways that speak to your own interest, skills, and experiences. There's lots to do as the world around us and surrounding us changes. So let me talk a little bit, now that we're organized as a council, about the agenda tonight before we begin down the agenda. And I hope that you've picked up a copy of the agenda. I think there are still some on the table over on the right if you haven't picked up one. With the results of the election, we don't have a quorum of members who are present for the Parks and Grounds Committee. Councilwoman Durbin will present the minutes, but we won't take a vote on those draft minutes because we don't have a quorum of people who are there. One other change in the agenda, we will not be voting on the selection of playground equipment tonight. There's some additional information and assessment needed about the space available and some other things, and we also want to hear more from the county as the permit application just submitted is reviewed. You'll note the agenda under item number 1 is described as questions to and from the council. This is an opportunity for you to address the council, to have your thoughts heard and begin to be considered. It isn't meant to be a live conversation between members of the council or the council collectively and those giving testimony. I respectfully ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. I've asked staff to manage the timer, and you'll hear the alarm go off at the 3-minute mark. If you think you have comments that will run longer than 3 minutes, please don't despair. Simply summarize your major points within the 3-minute period. However, we welcome written comments of any length addressed to the council, handwritten or in a .pdf format. These comments should be headed with your name, address, the date of the relevant council meeting, and the topic of your comments. And address that material, please, to Jason Goldstein if you drop them off in person, or email it to the following email address: info@friendshipheightsmd.gov. That's info at friendshipheightsmd.gov. And please, so that that material can be distributed well in advance of other meetings, submit your material by Thursday, 5 p.m. in the same week as the council meeting. While typically not part of the official minutes of the meeting, since no action will typically be taken in response to your comments at that meeting, they will become an official part of the record here, a record of the meeting, and subsequently available to all village residents on the website. Please note also that your comments will be part of the video record, because council meetings henceforth will be recorded, and the video will be on there'll be a video record of it. Your comments, if you give public testimony, you're consenting to the recording. That's the way in which we will have a record of what you have said, if you choose not to submit comments in writing in one form or another. But we hope that that won't be a deterrent for anyone to present comments to us. All of what I've just described, all the instructions I've just described, will also be on the village website. And if the website is not accessible to you for any number of reasons, I'm well aware, as are other council members, I believe, that everybody here doesn't use the web. Some people need to use other methods to stay informed. I'd ask you to please stop by or call the village office. Within a few days of this meeting, staff at the village will have been briefed and able to be helpful, as they always are, in my experience and in the experience I know everyone has had with village staff. So all that said, let's continue the meeting with the second item under number 1. And let me ask whether there's anyone who would like to address the council. Yes.
Good evening. My name is Afsaneh Mirfendereski, 4620 North Park. I wanted to firstly congratulate all of you on this new council. This was a big change election. I believe the voter turnout was the highest in 20 years. I'm a community activist. I'm very proud to have contributed to that turnout. My understanding is that between 17 and 18% of registered voters voted. That is roughly between 1 in 5 and 1 in 6. It's still not perfect, but it's a big improvement from where we were. I think my conclusion is that democracy won here. That's the 8th winner here. I did have 2 quick comments to make. I wanted to welcome all the new formatting in the sense that this is going to be on video. People can watch the comments as well. But as an activist, one of the issues that I've understood to continue to be problematic is the village news. The village newsletter is, to a lot of us, we are a community that does not have an independent press, and therefore the village news is more like a brochure. It's a one-way brochure. I wanted to urge you in the strongest terms possible to also consider publishing the residents' comments in the village news so that it would save my time as an activist emailing. People are in this room who probably had about 300 emails from me. It's exhausting to me, and I think it would help the democracy and a sense of harmony I think this village would aim for this new session. So that was my first comment. My second comment is regarding Page Park. I'm an architect myself. It was actually the result of my petition in 2020 that 3 designers were sought for that park. It had been left pretty abandoned for 4 years. The petition had called on 3 landscape architects to be hired and to maintain the natural identity of the park. This was always the one with the paving. That was always the one with the rustic enclave. And unfortunately, the 3 designs came from 3 lawn maintenance firms who do not specialize in garden design, and they're not qualified landscape architects. There were permits that were not sought, and most importantly, all that concrete in there is one of the reasons I was able to get tons of voters to show up, because there is a part of the village that would rather have that park restored to its original natural identity in the presence of a qualified landscape architect, which we've never had. So I wanted to have mentioned that as well. The park doesn't need to be entirely dug up. I think the lawn maintenance crew have done a nice job in the peripheries, but all that cement in the middle, I did want to make note the person who was in charge of that project not only did not win, but came in 10th. And I also wanted to mention that of the 3 Parks and Committee people, 2 were not elected. And the only person who was elected, Council Member Paula Durbin, voted no for this project. So those are my 2 main points. I wanted to congratulate you all again. I may have to leave a little bit early, unfortunately, but I'm proud to see all of you in office and wish you all the best in the coming 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council? Yep. And then
I'm Roger Cochetti, 5500 Friendship Boulevard, Willoughby. And 2 points I wanted to make. First, congratulations, obviously, to all of you, especially those of you who just got elected to council office. The first is what you guys do inside the boundaries and on the website of the village is extremely important, and I have commented before on the web presence of the village, which has been, in the 3 years I've lived here, have seen an astonishing change. In the past 2 years, the web presence of the village has matured 20 years in the space of 2 years. I had one practical suggestion to make about how to improve it further. First, note that the announcements that were just made by the chair, to me, are fabulous. This is half of what I was going to suggest, namely that you allow the ability of people to submit testimony so that everybody doesn't have to be available at the time of the meeting and show up at the meeting and blah, blah, blah. And people who can't come to meetings can also participate. But the practical suggestion I'd make is, number one, apply that to the committees as well. There's no difference whatsoever between the availability of written testimony to the council or the committees. And secondly, this is a little bit more adventurous, but it takes you into the next decade if you do it. Allow video recordings to be submitted as testimony, not just people who are good in written form. So you want to do TikTok video, two-minute limit on a TikTok video, but let people to participate who can't make it to the meetings for committees and the council. Second, on the bigger issue, the quality of our life here is made up not just of what happens inside the boundaries, but also what happens in this neighborhood. And you've heard me, some of you have heard me speak many times before about the issue of development. I've been a real estate investor for about 40 years. I'm as pro-development as anybody, anywhere. Friendship Heights needs lots of things. It needs a museum. It needs a botanical garden. It needs a community garden. It needs a soundproof pickleball court. It needs a library. It needs a lot of things. But if anybody tells you that what Friendship Heights needs is another high-rise residential building, they're blowing smoke someplace. So, you know, the point that I'd make is I was mildly offended by the county's planning department coming here and saying, listen, we've looked at Friendship Heights Village.
Roger, respectfully.
I'm sorry,
ask you to
3
finish up.
minutes?
Yep.
Okay, but then I'll just conclude to say, we've looked at Friendship Heights Village. We found you had a lot of lawns and low-rise buildings. What's wrong? Why aren't they developed? That's a serious mistake. You guys need to take the overdevelopment of high-rises in this area seriously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Ken Niles, the Willoughby. I wasn't, well, first of all, congratulations to all the new officials. Great job. Good to see you all. I wasn't planning to speak tonight, but after hearing some of the comments about Page Park, I am concerned. We have spent over $800,000 on this investment. And we have a saying where I come from, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. In other words, maybe there needs to be some adjustments here. But to think of tearing this park up at this juncture is just bizarre. And what I say is let's all be patient and look for the final product and see what it looks like. Then maybe we can make some adjustments. Are we going to get into this business of tit for tat? So one council has approved this park. It's well underway. Another council comes along, the current council tears it out. Another council comes along and says, no, let's put a concrete park back in there. What have you? I think prudence is the watchword here. We need to be prudent, resourceful, looking forward, and make sure that we respect the money that's already been spent. Are we going to spend another $500,000 there to redo this thing? In my opinion, absolutely not. Let's wait and see what we've got. I mean, there was some thought that goes into this, and when I see it, I say there's potential. There's potential here. So, thank you.
Are there other? Yes.
My name is Peter McCann. I live in the Willoughby. Very glad to see all of you, have a chance to say something. My concern is about large procurements. And I have procurements, purchases. And I am not aware of any request for me to look and approve expenditure of anything. I would think you would consult the village for very big items. I would certainly not expect to be consulted for routine or anything like that, but we've gotten two in this last group of village directors here. We've gotten two procurements that were in the vicinity of $1 million, and I really think a formal procedure for asking the residents whether they approve that is in order. Thank you.
Thank you. I saw Michael Dorsey next, and then we'll go over here.
Good evening. Congratulations. And a clarification, Mr. Chairman. With the comments from the residents, with the agenda, comments have been made in regards to Page Park. Are the residents going to be able to weigh in under the order of business on Page Park?
Tonight?
Yes, two
No.
already have.
No, they won't be. If
So
you'd
the,
like-
so just as a
Excuse me
clarification,
for a
the
second.
only time we have to
Mr.
speak
Dorsey,
is.
if you'd like to make a comment about Page Park or anything else, this is the opportunity to do so.
Okay, I intended to do two things. Well, let me just speak on Page Park, if you'll give me the opportunity to do that.
You have the
And then I'll
floor.
speak to what I was going to speak to. I have to agree with Mr. Niles. I can't wait for the park to be finished to take my grandchildren over there. Page Park was unusable before for children because of dog excrement in the grass. As far as the grass grows, it was only 80% weeds and 20% grass. It never was grass to begin with. As they've said, $700,000 have probably been spent. Another $150,000 will be spent. And to spend another $500,000 to tear it out, as people are saying around the community, I think is just out of order. And thank you for allowing me to state that. And as I said, congratulations to the council and to those that I work closely with, Councilmember Measy, Councilmember White, Councilmember Turner, Bruce Perney, and Dr. Muller and Ken Miles. I want to thank each one of you for running a very honorable campaign. You didn't campaign on negativity. You campaigned positively. You didn't promote fear within the electorate. You spoke of your record of accomplishments. You didn't smear other candidates. You spoke of your vision for the future. You didn't rely on distortion of facts. You spoke of past improvements to the quality of life in the village that all residents benefit by. And you didn't get in the mud. In short, you ran a clean campaign, and it is much appreciated. In addition, I want the residents to know, and I can say without hesitation, that more was accomplished in the last 2 years than was accomplished in the past 10 years, and 8 of that I served on the council. And as much of was accomplished was a direct result of the work that Dr. Muller and Bruce Perney did. They can be very proud of what they accomplished on behalf of all of the residents, and I thank them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dorsey. Are there, yes, back here and then over.
The glasses.
Okay, I hope the person who left it here will come back to pick it up. My name is Prem Garg. I'm a resident at the Carlton for the past 4 years. And again, congratulations to the council, for your wonderful victory. I have one comment to make at this stage. As you know, the acquisition of the Red House was a quite contentious topic with the previous council. And I have attended several of those meetings, and despite quite vocal opposition from many of the residents who participated, the then council had unanimously approved that acquisition. Now, that obviously is a done deal. It may be too difficult to undo, but what I would urge the council, pay a lot of attention to it so that it becomes a useful asset to the council and to the village, rather than becoming a white elephant with perpetual demands on our taxpayers' money. I think that is something I would hope would remain on your agenda for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
My name is Dan Dozier, and I'm a resident of the Carlton. And I have 2 suggestions for the new council, and I congratulate and give you my condolences both. Okay? The first suggestion is, in the last 2 years, the council has met in private session more than usual, for good reason in some cases, in perhaps all cases, I don't know, because of litigation. I ask that the council be more explicit in when it goes into private session on the purpose of the meeting, rather than just quoting boilerplate from the statute, which is not enough by law to do. And so I ask that the council pay attention to why you explain to the public why you're going into private session. Number 2, the council does not report to the public adequately, in my opinion, has not, and I hope you can change this, about public expenditures. These are tax dollars you're spending. The public has every right to know about those dollars being expended, not just on big issues like major purchases, but every dollar spent. And I think it's appropriate for the council to put that information at least on the website, and then perhaps also summarize in a more complete detail than just stating how much is in the reserves. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Muller?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Al Muller from the Elizabeth. I want to add my congratulations to each member of the new council. You worked very hard for this victory, and you deserve to celebrate. I know from experience it's definitely more fun to win than to lose. But the campaign is over, and now the hard part begins, to govern. I hope that you remember we are all your neighbors watching tonight, whether we voted for you or not, and we are all part of the same community. This is one of the safest, most pleasant communities in Maryland. Its diverse population of young families and retirees, residents and businesses enjoy unique amenities and cultural programs. Look around you. Beautiful parks, transportation access, and convenient medical care within walking distance. Many of us have lived here for years because we love this community. Please continue to find ways to conserve and improve the many amenities that exist and add new ones. Please appreciate the excellent staff that have been hired over many years. They will provide historic memory, offer good advice, and implement your policies in a professional manner. Please listen to constructive suggestions and have open minds, but stand firm against some who think democracy is best represented by those who shout the loudest or the longest. And remember the quotation at the front of this park. The greatest gift in life is the gift of friendship. Shalom.
Thank you, Dr. Mueller. Is there anyone else wishing to address the council this evening? Yes. No?
Joan Wheeler at the Willard. During the campaign, one of the issues that was brought out was about Geico, and I just want to urge the council to focus on that and not wait too long and be presented with a plan that we object to, because it really will have a big impact on our community, whatever is done over there. So I don't know whether you need to start a special committee or what, but I hope you will think about it.
Thank you, Joan. Charlie?
Good evening. I'm Charles Schwartz from 4620 North Park Avenue. And congratulations to all of you. I was not clear whether we can talk about Page Park later, whether the agenda has been changed. Because I heard somebody questioned whether we could deal with Page Park, and you said, yes, go ahead.
You may please comment
okay,
on
I have a
Page
few-
Park now.
Okay.
This will be your opportunity.
Oh, okay, good. So, am I correct in, did I hear that the permit has been granted?
I think you'll hear an update about the permit process during the meeting, during one of the reports.
Today?
Today, yes.
Okay. Well, I don't know if we'll have a chance, but I really think the community needs a full explanation of what happened, why we needed to stop work for a long period of time, how any additional costs, and I suspect there will be, because of, I don't know what the permit will require, but that the board be clear on how it's going to deal with any additional costs. And in fact, I think the board has to know in advance, because I think the contract is woefully inadequate on this, how it's going to deal with the following payments. A third has been paid. A third is going to be paid on substantial completion. If you could tell me what that means, I'd like to know. And I suspect that there'll be some major discussions about that. There are other contractual issues I've seen. But another thing I'd like to recommend is that the contractor come and explain what happened. I don't think we have not heard, because we don't know yet. Maybe some board members, maybe the old board does know what led to this sorry situation. I'm not talking about whether there should have been concrete or not. I'm talking about how a contractor who's supposed to know about and get permits does not have a permit. That's simple. So I think there's a lot that the board is going to have to do in advance of what's going to be transpiring. And I thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Chris Nauer, 4701 Willard Avenue. I'd just like to, first of all, congratulate all of you. I'm very happy to see this current board, and I think you're going to do a great job. I want to echo what Joan said. I think we're all very concerned about this planning, the Montgomery County planning initial evaluation of the use of all these properties now. They presented, someone here from the board presented, I think, 5 properties that they were looking at. One is over by Saks, the parking lot. The big one was the Geico property. And I would just like to ask you to please be proactive when you're dealing with agencies that are outside of your jurisdiction. So you have a proscribed little village here, but you're dealing with Montgomery County Planning, you're dealing with Montgomery County Parks in the case of Willard Park, you're dealing with just Montgomery County Council when we're dealing with the shopping carts that are being left up and down the street in our village. And you can say, it's not my jurisdiction, I can't do a thing, but you can. You may not have the legal authority to do something, but you certainly can communicate with the entities that do, such as Montgomery County. Put a fine on those on Amazon Fresh and Whole Foods. $100 for any shopping cart we find outside your property. There's a way of doing it. I think you need to be very proactive, and this is a good opportunity with a new board to work with these outside agencies that are making decisions for us. And I really appreciate your help. Thank you.
Chris?
Joe Butcher, the Elizabeth. I was not going to rise at this portion of the meeting, but given the comments about Page Park, for one, I think it's beautiful, and I think you got to give it a chance to grow in. Contrary to what many may say or think, the review process, the meetings were exhaustive. There was plenty of community conversation. There was plenty of review. To a degree, you can't help if people don't come to meetings and don't voice their opinions. And so it's very easy after the fact, I believe, to criticize something that's been done basically according to design. And I'm not talking about the permit issue. We basically had a grassy knoll that no one could get access to. If you had a walker, if you had a wheelchair, if you were not stable, you could not use that park. The park is now configured so people can go up there. I was down there this afternoon. I saw no less than 15 people sitting on an incomplete park, people with their physical therapists out with walkers, navigating the hill, taking steps up, sitting outside in the sunshine. That's what that concrete portion on top was supposed to facilitate. People getting outside and enjoying the sun. So before we start to think about whatever we're going to do, let's remember that this was reviewed ad nauseum, month after month after month. Council took a vote, made a decision to go ahead. That's locked and loaded. At this point, if there are permit issues or things like that, deal with them, but deal with those fundamental facts as opposed to going back and rewriting history. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Yes.
Cameron Moody, the Elizabeth. I just want to feel so galvanized by Joe. I just wanted to stand up and say I actually agree with him wholeheartedly. I love the park. My mother and I drove past it on Mother's Day. We saw a dozen people out there, and she commented on how beautiful it is. And I said to her, I can't wait to get out and read magazines when the weather is really nice. I've seen more people in that park this spring than in the over 10 years that I've lived here. I think it's beautiful personally, but I think we as people have to realize that even if something is in good taste, it might not be our taste. It may not be everyone's taste, but it's a useful park. And every single time I've been past it and the weather has permitted, I've seen people in that park. Again, it might not be everyone's taste, but I do believe it's good taste. And I think that we'd be remiss if we spent additional money to ruin something that I think has been overall good.
Thank you, Mr. Moody. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council? Yes, please. Thanks for the assist.
I'm Pat Donovan from 4620. The last two speakers have really said what I was going to get up and say. I look out on Page Park, and I am struck by the number of people who are just in the park, sitting on one of the stone walls, either chatting with somebody or reading emails, and the people with walkers who come up into the park, which you could never see before. I mean, maybe it has more hardscape than some people would like, but leave it alone. I mean, if you need a few tweaks, fine, but it's a nice park. It's a lovely park, actually, and it makes it more accessible to the entire community.
Excuse me, I didn't get your name?
Pat Donovan.
Pat Donovan, okay,
Yeah.
thanks very much. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the council? Yes. Kathy?
Just one more word on the park. You know, before they put the shrubbery in, I thought, oh shit, what is this?
Kathy, give us your name and.
Kathy Bovello, Willoughby. Okay. What a difference it makes to have the shrubbery in there. And of course, it's so recent and it's going to grow. And I still can't quite figure out what kind of playground there's going to be. But anyway, it's better than it was, and hopefully it'll get better still. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one else, to close this portion of the meeting and move on to the mayor's announcements. Melanie?
Thank you. No formal mayor's announcements tonight, just a hearty congratulations to my colleagues.
Thank you very much. And with that, we'll move on to the secretary's report. Martha?
Thank you. I'm going to just follow on what Melanie said about thanking everyone here, thanking every voter, thanking everyone who ran. If people don't run, you don't have choices. So appreciate this whole process this year. The minutes from the last meeting are in the packet. I think everybody here attended the meeting. And go ahead.
I move the approval of the minutes with one addition that wasn't in place at the time of that last meeting, but that I've just announced be in place for the minutes, which is I'd like to submit the written testimony that I gave at that meeting in the fashion that I just described to become part of the official record of the meeting. Sorry, thank you for letting me know. I said that consistent with the procedure that I just outlined for submission of written testimony, rather than amend the minutes, I'd simply like the minutes to reflect that the testimony that I gave will be in the official record of the minutes as other testimony going forward will be. Thank you.
So is there a motion to approve the?
Yeah, is there a support for the minutes then?
Yes.
With my,
Mhm.
yeah. Cheryl, is he making that as second or? Yeah. Is there support for that? Okay. Michael, support?
Yes.
Okay, so we've got
Yes.
motion and support. Is there any
So
further discussion about that? About the minutes from the April 10th council meeting? If not, I would call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, the same sign.
So,
Pass.
Mr. Chairman, let me just clarify. The extension of remarks, which I think is a good idea, are they part of the official minutes, or are they going to be viewed as addenda to the official minutes? Or how are we going to do that?
They won't be part of the official minutes because they don't reflect action taken at the meeting.
So they'll be listed as something, they'll have a different category.
Yes, they'll
but
have a different
as
category.
You've used the term minutes a few times, so it's going to be.
Yeah, they will not be part of the minutes.
That's
correct.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question and the clarification. meeting? Paul?
These minutes were, I'm sorry, were submitted by Bruce Perney, and they appear complete.
They appear complete?
Yes.
I mean,
So I move we accept the minutes of the Parks and Ground Committee meeting of April 17th.
I'm not sure, Paul, that we have a majority of members of the council who were at that meeting and therefore are knowledgeable about it.
I'm sorry, I thought everyone received, there was a document circulated by Bruce Perney of 6 pages on that meeting, and I thought everyone else received it. I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Are people comfortable voting on those minutes? Right. No, I understand that.
I can only say that in my view, the minutes are complete. But if no one else has read them, perhaps we want to defer this to our next meeting.
I think we can accept the report.
Yes, you can
Okay.
you can accept the minutes.
Okay.
So
Is
I
there a
move
motion
that
to
the
accept
council
this
accept
report?
the minutes for April 17th.
Would you like to make that motion to accept the report?
I just did.
Okay, is there a second for that? Michael, thank you. Any further discussion about them? Seeing none, I'd call for the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. Move on to the treasurer's report. Roy?
Thank you. Well, this was setting up to be the shortest treasurer's report in history, but based on the comments, there are a couple of things I'd like to say. First, according to our packet, our general fund has almost 2.9 million, with $11,600 in our reserve fund and $1,300 in another miscellaneous account. So what I wanted to add is what I plan on making my priority over the next several months is I think we need to look at, first of all, the procedures for how we sort of handle money and spend money at the municipal level. I think there are some changes that could be made there. I also think we need to make some changes in terms of how we present the budget. There are some line items in there I think could be improved. On the financial presentation of our accounts, I also think we can or should look at where our money is held. Like, as I just said, our capital improvements fund has almost nothing, and all our money is being kept now in one account. I'm not talking about how our money is invested. I think that's for something down the line. I'm just sort of talking about where it's physically kept and how it's reported. And obviously, anything I suggest would be subject to council approval. These are not things that I would or even could implement on my own. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Roy. That takes us to committee reports, and got a report of the Council Parks and Grounds Committee of April 17th. Right.
Well, I have a little more to say
Okay.
on that. Okay. So we met on April 17th, the committee, which consisted of myself and Dr. Muller and our Chair Perney. Oh, I'm sorry. The committee met on April 17th. The committee consisted of myself, Dr. Muller, and Bruce Perney. We specifically discussed or considered equipment for the space in Page Park designated as a play area, which is the dirt floor in the circle that's within the wall. We decided to leave the final choice of items to the council. Bruce circulated a memo, which, as I said, I thought everyone got, was 6 pages, which includes a list of the products by 3 manufacturers from which the council might choose 4 items for the play area to include. These were a shed or house-like structure, It's called, in the vernacular, a forest shop for some reason, a crawl tunnel, stumps for sitting and for stepping on, a seesaw, a notched log that goes up 6 feet for climbing. And as we considered those choices, we also considered certain requirements. For example, there needs to be a 5 to 6 foot separation between the elements. That's within this circle. So that's going to necessarily limit what can go in there. We also received notice that certain equipment acquired via that committee meeting might be too large for that location. I think that's about as far, well, when the presence of the users is considered and the margin between the circling wall and the nearest item of equipment, so I think it's about 5 or 6 feet. The nearest item, does that leave room in the circle for 4 items, which was what was the meeting, those at the meeting concluded might be desirable? I don't think it does. The age range for the park indicated for this part of the park is 2 to 7. That is kind of a broad age range when you consider the progression of development. And I think it's going to be hard to cater to children from 2 to 7. So that's just going to be a challenge we have to face or limit or otherwise define the age range. And finally, given this election, is this new council, this is my question, is this new council required to consider and abide by the recommendation of the previous council's Parks and Ground Committee?
I think that that's a question that this council will have to discuss.
And we should.
Right. Thank you. Does that conclude your report, Paula?
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. Moving on to the report of the Community Advisory Committee meeting. Joe?
Mr. Chairman, council members, thank you very much. And again, congratulations. My name is Joe Butcher. I am the current chair of the Village's Community Advisory Committee. You received a packet of our minutes from our meeting on May 10th. I'm just going to go through for summary for the public record, if that's okay. And again, congratulations. I should have mentioned that earlier. We did talk about the election results at our last meeting. Concentrating on the recommendations, the committee agreed to continue to refine and track awareness to its identity report that was issued in the last council session. We agreed to focus on village safety as one of our primary topics in the next council term. And finally, the committee would like to reinforce its recommendation to consider adding speed bumps and lighted signs at previously suggested locations, specifically North Park and Willard Avenue. That is a hazardous intersection. Shoemaker and Willard Avenue, and Shoemaker and North Park. For those of you not aware, there's a lot of kid traffic from one side of the street to the other, with a lot of the kids accessing the very successful martial arts center there. We see it as a safety issue. Also, members of council are invited to our committee meetings, and you may see us come to you with an invite once council gets its agenda together. The next committee meeting will be held on June 14th at 6 p.m. via Zoom. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Could I just ask a quick question of Joe? The next committee meeting is scheduled after the village council meeting. Is that?
That is correct.
Is that on purpose?
It was just a planning. It was
it's usually a year before.
Yeah, it was a planning issue.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julian. As I announced at the beginning of the meeting, we will not be discussing the or taking any action on the play equipment for the children's play area. So that moves us on to new business, a discussion and vote on the village's representation on the Citizens Coordinating Committee of Friendship Heights. And Melanie, if you'd give us a little background about this group.
Thank you. The village has had an active membership in the Citizens Coordinating Committee on Friendship Heights, which is a coalition of approximately 22 local communities. And also part of those 22 communities are condo buildings. And I served as chairman of the CCCFH from 2019 to 2021. I stepped down, and then last month, their nominating committee asked me to serve as vice chairman of the CCCFH. And I told them that first I had to get reelected to the village council, and now I am asking for the approval of the council to be one of the representatives of the village to the CCCFH. We are allowed to appoint a second person. It does not have to be a council member, but I would recommend that it is a council member because in the absence that I am not there, they are voting on behalf of the village. So it's important that this person really be voting with the best interests of the village at heart. Okay. And their elections take place on Wednesday, so that's why this is on the agenda this evening.
Thank you, Melanie. Are there any questions from members of the council about this? Is there a motion?
I move that we reappoint Melanie White to be our representative to CCCFH, and if a second person would like to volunteer, we can perhaps do that in the second motion, or we could wait till we think about it. But if we're going to support Melanie, it's important that she be there for the next meeting so she can be elected.
Okay. There's been a motion and support to send Melanie White as our representative to the Citizens Coordinating Committee of Friendship Heights. Is there any other discussion about that? Hearing none, I'd call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Congratulations, Melanie. And I skipped over an important part of the agenda. Thank you, Michael, and Julian for pointing it out. So we're going to get an update on Page Park from Julian. Thank you.
Thank you. We did have an email update from Jednar Savage, who's with Green Sweep, late Friday afternoon, which was forwarded to the council members. So I'll just quote a few items from there. First of all, the plant installation is well underway. They've received 2 large shipments already. They have a 3rd shipment, which should be the final shipment this week. So they should be completing the plantings within the next week or so. The irrigation system is scheduled to be installed the week of May 22nd, which is next week. They have to wait until all the plants are in, and then they can put in the irrigation system. That is expected to take about 1 to 2 weeks to complete. Subsequent to that, they can do the turf installation. There's that whole section in the back of the park that will be sod, and they need to have the sprinkler system in place before they install the sod. So that's roughly the sequence there. Also, site furnishings, he indicated the week of May 15th, which is this week. They're placing orders for benches, trash receptacles, and patio tables and chairs. And installation will occur upon receipt, and the materials are expected to be received within 5 to 10 days. So there will be benches around the perimeter of the park and patio tables and chairs in that main patio area towards the front. Play area equipment, as discussed, was tabled this evening, so that will be taken up later. On the permit was applied for in late April to the Department of Permitting Services of Montgomery County. The contractor included all the relevant materials that are required. However, this week they just found out, actually late last week, there's an additional requirement that was not disclosed previously by the county, that The plans for the pergola have to be signed and sealed by a licensed architect or engineer, and this is in Jed's report. Green Sweep does not have a licensed architect or engineer on their staff, so they've asked us for some assistance. We've reached out to the village's engineering firm, A. Morton Thomas, who's helped us out with other projects, for them to review the plans and provide the necessary signature that the county requires. So that's in play right now. We have not heard back from our engineer to confirm that. I should also add, just it wasn't mentioned in this report, but we've heard from Jed verbally and in meetings that we've had. He's quite confident that the application will be approved for the permit. He has measured, and his folks have measured the grade on all of the approaches to the park, the pathways for ADA compliance, and they're very confident that they comply with the ADA with all of the regrading that they've done, and that the pergola survey that our engineering firm did will show that the pergola is in compliance. So they're very optimistic that this will be approved. It's just a question of the timing. It's about 30 days roughly from when they applied. So that would take us basically to the end of May, anticipating approval.
Thank you, Julian. Are there questions? Cheryl?
With the irrigation system to be installed, one, is it underground? How is it? Is a sprinkler system coming, or do they come out and sprinkle? And two, do we have to wait for the permit to be finalized before the irrigation system is put in?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, well, I guess, sorry, your first question wasn't a yes or no question. The first question was about the sprinkler system. Yes, there is a connection underground. There was a sprinkler system with the previous version of the park. It was completely ripped up for this, this renovation. There is a water source in the park. It's on sort of the west side, closer to the Irene. There's a water source there that we brought in a while ago. So they will tap into that to provide the sprinkler system. And there will be underground lines that will go all through the park to water all the plants. No, the permit application and the stop work order did not apply to planting or placement of an irrigation system, so they can proceed with that.
Okay, and so that I understand on the irrigation, so is it self-sufficient or is it connected to another property, another building's water line, or is it an independent line?
It's an independent line that we are paying for, and it was set up previously, yeah.
Martha?
This has been sort of a long project, and I think in talking to people, there are, a number of unanswered questions and have been some potential irregularities. So there have been some potential irregularities. So I'd like to meet with the staff and ask you to write a detailed written report that will be shared at the next meeting so everyone can learn more. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm just, somebody in one of their comments mentioned the second payment. Has the second payment actually been made, or is it pending?
Yeah, and thanks for reminding me, because I meant to cover that in my report. So there's three payments due on the project. It's $850,000 and change. Each payment is 1/3 of that, which is about $283,000 and change. And we have made two payments. 2/3, so that's about $560,000+, and there's another final payment of $283,000 that's due upon full completion. So we're at the point of, I believe, substantial completion with the 2/3 payment having been done.
Okay, and has there been any discussion about the who's paying for the additional costs for the engineer and any permit application fees?
Not officially here. I mean, typically it's the client cost, but of course it's going to come before the council. I can tell you the only known additional costs that we have so far are the ramp for the play area, which was approved already by the previous council. It's just over $10,000. So that's been approved, not built yet. The only other known additional costs at this point are handrails. So the original plan did not envisage handrails at the opening walkway going up from the North Park sidewalk. Because the grade is not quite low enough there still needs to be a little bit of elevation there from the sidewalk. The ADA will require handrails there, so we will be looking at 2 additional handrails, whatever the cost of that is. And then on the side, the steps coming up from the sidewalk on North Park, that new staircase that leads to the pergola, there was 1 handrail in the drawings that was approved by the council, but the county will require a second handrail on the other side of that staircase. So those 3 handrails we know will be change orders, additional cost. I don't think it will be tons of money. It's basically 3 handrails. That's all we have at this point that we know of in terms of additional costs that will come to the council.
But, okay, and thank you. But I meant the additional cost for the permit, the engineering report. Has the contractor acknowledged that those are their expenses? Or do they expect us to pick
We
that
have
up?
not had that discussion.
haven't? Okay.
We've asked our engineer to sign off on these plans. I don't know what that cost is, but that has not come back to us, so we haven't brought that to the council.
Paula?
I think it was in 2017 when the council was considering installing a source of water in Page Park. And when we began probing the park, a source of water was discovered. So, and that was reported in the council meeting. So what became of that?
Well, the source of water we brought into the park for the irrigation system for the previous version of the park. So that was 2017 sounds about right. I was going to say about 5 years ago. So that irrigation system was there. There is water. We are being billed by WSSC on a separate account to the village. It's not, we're not taking it from any other building. It's our water source, and now it's existing. So they will have the means to install this new system shortly.
Any other questions? Michael, okay. With that, then, Martha, I understand you'll be meeting with Julian and staff and talking with them about additional information in a written form. Thanks very much. With that, our agenda is complete because we've already voted on the Citizens Coordinating Committee, and there's nothing else under new business. Is that right? Anything else that any council members would like to say? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Thank you very much for your attendance tonight. Thanks for an efficient meeting, council and staff.